The screen door slammed like a gunshot in the sticky Georgia heat, and Vincent's world shattered with the echo. "You're a disgrace to this family. Boy, get out and don't come back." Grandma Eleanor's voice cracked like old porcelain, her gnarled hands clutching the doorframe as if it were the last thread holding her heart together. In that split second, Vincent felt the humid air thicken with betrayal, his boyfriend Bobby's hand slipping from his like a lifeline cut loose. Vincent had always known his grandmother's love was a fragile thing, pieced together from Sunday pot roasts and stories of moonlit dances in the 1950s South. Born and raised in the sprawling chaos of Atlanta, where the skyline pierced the sky like jagged promises, Vincent grew up under her watchful eye after his parents' car wreck left him an orphan at 12. Eleanor Hayes, with her silver-streaked bun and eyes sharp as pecan shells, had taken him in without a second thought. "Blood's thicker than sweet tea. Vinny," she'd say, her voice a warm drawl that wrapped around him like kudzu vines. She was the rock in his riverbed life, fierce, unyielding, the kind of Southern matriarch who baked pecan pies from scratch and quoted Bible verses like they were grocery lists. But Vincent was gay. He knew it young, in the way his heart stuttered at the sight of the high school quarterback's easy grin, or how he'd linger too long in the aisles of the local bookstore, stealing glances at the covers of forbidden novels. He came out to Grandma at 18, fresh out of high school and sweating through his first semester at Georgia Tech. It was a humid July night, cicadas screaming outside her screened porch, and he'd blurted it out over glasses of iced tea sweating on the wicker table. "Grandma, I'm gay." The words hung there, heavy as storm clouds. She'd set her glass down slow, the clink echoing like a verdict. Her face didn't crumple or twist in rage. Instead, softened, lines etching deeper around her mouth like cracks in sun-baked clay. "Well, sugar," she said after a long breath, "the Lord's got a plan for everybody, even the ones who march to a different drummer. I love you, Vinny. Always will. But don't you go advertising it like it's the weather report." It wasn't full acceptance. No pride flags on the mantle. No invitations to drag brunches, but it was something. Quiet truce. She kept his secret, baked him extra cookies when he looked lovesick. And once, after a bad breakup with a closeted frat boy, she'd slipped a worn copy of Giovanni's Room onto his nightstand without a word. Vincent clung to that love like a talisman, even as he built a life in the city's pulsing underbelly. Now, at 25, Vincent was a graphic designer hustling freelance gigs in Midtown, his tiny apartment a riot of thrift store art and half-finished canvases. He'd met Bobby 2 years back at a queer poetry slam in Little 5 Points, where the air smelled of patchouli and cheap beer. Bobby Ramirez, with his broad shoulders from years hauling crates at a Brooklyn warehouse before moving south, recited verses about stolen kisses in Bronx alleys that made Vincent's chest ache. Bobby was unapologetically himself, tattoos snaking up his arms like vines, a laugh that boomed like thunder, and eyes the color of aged whiskey that saw right through Vincent's polished facade. They fell hard and fast, tangled in sheets that smelled of sandalwood and possibility. Bobby taught him to salsa in the kitchen at 2 a.m., whispering Spanish endearments that made Vincent blush. For the first time, Vincent felt seen, not as the orphan kid or the quiet gay grandson, but as a man worthy of reckless, all in love. Bringing Bobby home to meet Grandma was Vincent's grand gesture, a bridge he thought sturdy enough to cross. It was Thanksgiving, the air crisp with the promise of Atlanta's rare fall chill, leaves turning gold under streetlights that hummed like distant prayers. Vincent had rehearsed it 100 times in the mirror, his reflection pale against the fogged glass. "Grandma, this is Bobby. My boyfriend. Simple. Direct. American as apple pie, or at least the queer version of it." They pulled up to her bungalow in Decatur in Bobby's beat-up Ford pickup. The bed loaded with a cooler of craft beers and a pecan pie Bobby had burned the edges of while trying to impress. Eleanor greeted them at the door in her starched apron, flour dusting her cheeks like fresh snow. "Vinny, and this must be Bobby, was it?" Her smile was tight, but her hug for Vincent was bone-crushing, the kind that smelled of lavender soap and home. Dinner started smooth, turkey carved with precision, cornbread stuffing that melted on the tongue, stories of Vincent's childhood mischief swapped like trading cards. Bobby charmed her with tales of his abuela's tamales, his voice rolling like warm gravel, and for a moment, Vincent dared to hope. The dining room glowed under the chandelier, crystal glasses catching the light like captured fireflies. But then, as the pie was served, Vincent cleared his throat. "Grandma, Bobby and I, we're serious. Like, moving in together serious. I wanted you to meet him proper, because, well, because I love him." The words tumbled out, earnest and raw, his hand finding Bobby's under the table, fingers interlocking like puzzle pieces. The fork paused midway to Eleanor's mouth, pie crust crumbling onto her plate. Her eyes flicked to their joined hands, then away, to the faded wallpaper blooming with roses. The clock on the mantel ticked louder, each second a hammer strike. "Love," she repeated, the word tasting foreign on her tongue. "Vinny, honey, love's a big word. But this," she gestured vaguely at Bobby, who sat frozen, his easy smile fracturing. "This ain't right. Not in my house. The Bible says, Grandma, please," Vincent cut in, his voice a plea wrapped in steel. "You said you loved me. As I am. I do love you, boy. God knows I do. But loving you don't mean I gotta open my door to this sin parading as supper." Her chair scraped back, the sound a screech across Vincent's soul. She stood, napkin fluttering to the floor like a white flag of surrender. "You can stay the night, Vinny. But him, he goes. Now." Bobby's grip tightened, then released. "Mrs. Hayes, I respect your home. But Vincent's my family too." His voice was steady, but Vincent saw the hurt flicker in his eyes, a shadow passing over sunlit waters. Eleanor turned away, shoulders rigid as oak. "Family's blood, son. And blood don't bend that way." The kitchen door swung shut behind her, leaving the air thick with the scent of cooling pie and unspoken fractures. Vincent drove Bobby back to the city that night, the radio murmuring sad country ballads about lost loves and lonesome highways. "She'll come around," Vincent said, more to himself than Bobby, his knuckles white on the wheel. But deep down, he knew the crack had widened into a chasm. Back in his apartment, they made love fierce and desperate, bodies colliding like storm fronts, but the afterglow tasted of ash. Bobby traced the line of Vincent's jaw with calloused fingers. "We don't need her blessing, Vin. We've got us." Yet Vincent couldn't shake the image of that door closing. Not just on Bobby, but on the boy he'd been, the one who'd believed love could rewrite the rules. The weeks blurred into a haze of avoidance. Vincent texted grandma platitudes. "Hope you're well. Miss your cornbread. But her replies were curt, emojis of smiling faces that lied like cheap lipstick. Bobby threw himself into work. Late nights at the warehouse echoing with the clank of boxes and his own unresolved anger. Their dates turned tense, silences stretching like taffy between laughs. Vincent started sketching again, dark abstracts of doors and shadows, selling a few to a gallery in Ponce Highland that paid just enough for rent. Christmas loomed like a specter, all twinkling lights and forced cheer. Vincent's friends, a ragtag crew from the queer scene, with names like Jax and Theo, urged him to skip the family drama, host his own found family feast with spiked eggnog and a drag queen Santa. But the pull of blood was stronger, a tide he couldn't outrun. One more try, he told Bobby over takeout lo mein, chopsticks dangling like fragile hopes. For her. For me. Bobby's jaw set, that stubborn line Vincent both loved and feared. I'm not begging at her doorstep again, Vin. But if you go, I'll be waiting with the tree and tinsel. So Vincent went alone, the drive out to Decatur a funeral procession under gray skies spitting rain. The bungalow looked smaller, shabbier, poinsettias wilting on the stoop. Eleanor opened the door with a brittle smile, her housecoat hanging loose on her frame. Merry Christmas, sugar. Come in from the cold. The living room was a shrine to nostalgia. Stockings embroidered with his initials, the nativity scene he'd helped set up as a kid. They exchanged gifts in awkward ritual. A sweater for her, woolen and sensible. A leather-bound journal for him, pages blank as fresh starts. Dinner was silent communion, ham slicing thin as pretenses. But as the fire crackled low, Eleanor set her wineglass down. Vinny, I've been praying. About you. About him. Vincent's heart lodged in his throat. Bobby, she nodded, eyes distant. I read that book you left out once. The one about the room. It hurt, knowing that's your world now. But I can't hate you for it. You're my boy. Tears pricked his eyes, hot and unbidden. Then let us in, Grandma. Please. Her hand trembled as she reached for his. I need time, honey. Time to make peace with the Lord on this. It wasn't yes, but it wasn't the door slamming either. For now, it was enough. Back in Atlanta, Vincent burst through the apartment door, scooping Bobby into a hug that lifted him off the floor. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no. It's a start. They decorated the tree that night, ornaments clinking like toasts to fragile futures. And as midnight tolled, Vincent whispered against Bobby's neck, I choose you. Every damn time, but peace, like snow in Georgia, melted fast. January brought ice storms and revelations. Vincent's phone buzzed during a client meeting, a voicemail from Aunt Lydia, Eleanor's sharp-tongued sister. Vinny, your grandma's sick. Bad. Heart trouble. Get here quick. The hospital in Decatur was a sterile maze of beeps and bleach, fluorescent lights buzzing like angry hornets. Eleanor lay small in her bed, tubes snaking like accusations, her skin translucent as onion skin paper. Cancer, the doctor murmured, charts rustling. Advanced. Months, maybe less. Vincent sank into the chair, Bobby's hand an anchor at his back. Why didn't you tell me? Eleanor's laugh was a wheeze. Didn't want to burden you, sugar. You've got your life. That night, in the dim vigil of her room, Vincent confessed everything. The fear, the love, the ache of her rejection. I need you to meet him, Grandma. Really meet him. Before it's too late. Her eyes, cloudy with morphine, fixed on Bobby. Sit, boy. Tell me about that abuela of yours. Bobby did, voice steady as he wove tales of New York stoops and family feasts, his hand never leaving Vincent's. Eleanor listened, nodding faintly, and for a heartbeat, the room held its breath. Then, you're good for him. I see that. But the world's cruel to boys like you too. I wanted better for you. Better looks like this, Vincent said, voice breaking. Us. Together. She squeezed his hand, frail but fierce. Then fight for it, Vinny. Doors always open for you. But him. Give me time to believe. Spring unfurled in Atlanta like a reluctant confession. Dogwoods blooming pink against the city's relentless hum. But for Vincent, the season carried the weight of waiting. Grandma's treatments dragged on. Chemo sessions that left her queasy and quiet. Hospital visits punctuated by Vincent's furtive sketches on napkins, capturing her profile in charcoal strokes of defiance. Bobby became a fixture in the sterile corridors, smuggling in contraband empanadas wrapped in foil, his presence a balm against the antiseptic chill. Eleanor tolerated him, even cracked a smile at his jokes about bodega cats. But the door to full acceptance remained ajar, hinges creaking with unspoken doubts. Vincent threw himself into work, designing logos for queer-owned startups that paid in exposure and exposure paid in rent hikes. Nights blurred into creative frenzies, his laptop glowing like a confessional in the dark apartment. Bobby, sensing the strain, planned escapes, a weekend in Savannah, where Spanish moss draped like veils over ghost tours and oyster bars. They walked the squares hand in hand, the humid air kissing their skin, and for stolen hours, Vincent forgot the shadow of illness. Marry me, Bobby murmured one dawn, tangled in hotel sheets, his ring a simple silver band engraved with siempre. Vincent laughed through tears, yes on his lips like a prayer. But homecomings soured the sweetness. Aunt Lydia, with her peroxide curls and Bible-thumping zeal, had taken up residence in Eleanor's bungalow, her judgments sharp as switchblades. That boy's turning your head, Vinny, she'd hiss during family suppers, her fork stabbing mashed potatoes like sins. Grandma's weak, don't burden her with your lifestyle. Bobby, ever the diplomat, bit his tongue until it bled. But Vincent saw the erosion, the way Bobby's shoulders slumped heavier each visit. The betrayal came swift as a summer squall, on a sweltering June afternoon. Vincent arrived at the hospital early, arms laden with Eleanor's favorite, fresh peaches from a roadside stand, juice dripping sticky down his wrist. The room was empty, bed stripped bare, monitors silent. Panic clawed his throat as he bolted to the nurse's station. Mrs. Hayes, where is she? Discharged this morning. Aunt. Family took her home. The nurse's sympathy was a pat on the hand, but Vincent was already dialing, heart hammering. Aunt Lydia answered, voice syrupy with malice. Oh, Vinny. She's resting. But we had a talk. She don't want visitors today. Especially not with company. Bullshit, Vincent snarled, tires squealing as he raced to Decatur. The bungalow loomed accusatory, curtains drawn like closed eyes. He burst through the unlocked door, the air thick with the scent of boiled cabbage and regret. Eleanor lay on the couch, shawl draped and pale. Lydia perched like a vulture on the armchair. Grandma. Vincent dropped to his knees, peaches tumbling forgotten. Her hand fluttered to his cheek, cool as autumn wind. Hush, sugar. Lydia's right. I need quiet. To think on my sins before the end. Sins? The word burned. What did she say to you? Lydia leaned forward, eyes gleaming. I told her the truth. Boy. About that parade you marched in last Pride, half-naked abominations on floats, preaching against the Lord. And that Ramirez boy? I looked him up. Tattoos, temper, a juvie record from his wild days. He's poison, Vinny. Dragging you to hell. Vincent whirled on her, fury volcanic. You spied on him? Jesus. Lydia. You're the poison. Eleanor's voice cut through, frail but firm. Enough. I asked her, Vinny. After the pain last night. I needed to know if I was wrong. Loving you loose like that. Her eyes met his fractured prisms. And I see now it's not just love. It's a choice. One that breaks a mother's heart. No, grandmother's, Vincent thought, but the correction died unspoken. He stormed out, slamming the screen door so hard the frame rattled. In the truck, he punched the dash until knuckles split, blood smearing the wheel. Bobby found him there at dusk, parked crooked in their lot, engine idling like a confession. What happened? Amor? Vincent spilled it all, words jagged as glass. Bobby's face hardened, not with anger at Eleanor, but at Lydia's venom. She's lying about the record, juvenile shit from 15, nothing since. But that's not the point. This is control. Then, she's using her sickness like a weapon. They drove to a dive bar in East Atlanta, neon buzzing open like a dare. Beers flowed cold and bitter, pool cues cracking like thunder in the haze of cigarette smoke. Outlawed but eternal here. A jukebox wailed Patsy Cline, her ache mirroring Vincent's. I can't lose her, he confessed, head heavy on Bobby's shoulder. But I can't lose you either. Bobby cupped his face, thumbs brushing tears. Then fight smart, not hard. Show her who I am, not what Lydia spins. The plan coalesced over greasy burgers. A family intervention, not with shouts but stories. Vincent rallied allies. His queer aunt from Charleston who'd come out in the 80s, a pastor friend from the affirming church in Midtown. But deeper, he dug into Eleanor's past, rifling through attic boxes in stolen moments. Yellowed letters from a beau lost in Korea, a hidden snapshot of two women arm in arm at a debutante ball, Eleanor's college roommate, smile intimate as a secret, whispers of her own buried truths. July 4th exploded in fireworks over Piedmont Park, but Vincent's night was a bonfire of resolve. He confronted Lydia in the bungalow kitchen, her cigarette dangling accusatory. You're scared, aren't you, of what Grandma might choose if she sees the truth? She sneered, ash flicking to the linoleum. Truth? Your truth's a lie. Boy. She raised you better. But Eleanor called him back, voice a rasp over the line days later. Come alone tomorrow. We need to talk. The living room felt like a courtroom, dust motes dancing in slanted light. She pressed a letter into his hand, faded ink from 1952, her handwriting looping elegant. Read it, Vinny. It was to her roommate, Clara. My dearest, the nights without you are hollow. If only we could run away, to a place where love like ours isn't whispered but shouted. Vincent's breath caught. You? She nodded, weary. Clara was my heart. We parted when her family found out. Sent her north, me south to marry your granddaddy. I buried it deep, but it never died. Tears traced her cheeks. Silver rivers. Seeing you with Bobby. It stirs the ghost. Makes me ache for what I lost. Then why push him away? Vincent's voice trembled. Bridge teetering. Fear. Sugar. Fear of the pain doubling for you. Lydia feeds it, but it's mine too. She pulled him close. Frail arms iron. Bring him. Let me try. Hope bloomed tentative as a crocus. Vincent texted Bobby. Doors cracking open. Dinner Sunday? The reply, hell yes. I'll bring the tamales. Sunday arrived sweltering. Azaleas drooping under the assault. Bobby arrived early. Nerves jangling like keys. A bouquet of wildflowers clutched like armor. Vincent met him on the porch, kissing him fierce. She's ready. I think. Inside, the table was set simple: fried chicken, collards, Bobby's tamales steaming aromatic. Eleanor rose slow, extending a hand. Welcome, Bobby. Sit. Tell me about that salsa you two dance. Conversation flowed, halting at first, then freer. Stories of Bobby's move south for love. Eleanor's tales of speakeasies in wartime Atlanta. Lydia sulked in the corner, her glares daggers, but for once, silenced. As dusk painted the windows lavender, Eleanor raised her glass. Sweet tea, not wine. To family. The ones we choose, and the ones that choose us back. Vincent's heart swelled, tears blurring the candlelight. Bobby's foot nudged his under the table, promise in the touch. For the first time, the door felt wide, not wedged. But betrayal's shadow lingered. Lydia cornered Vincent post-dinner, breath sour with wine. She's humoring you, fool. Wait till the wills read. She's leaving it all to the church if you don't straighten up. He laughed it off, but the seed burrowed. Nights later, rifling through Eleanor's desk for pain meds, Vincent found the draft, a codicil to her will, scribbled in haste. To Vincent Hayes, my grandson, all earthly possessions, on condition he renounce his unnatural ways and seek the Lord's guidance. Lydia's handwriting, forged in piety's name. Rage ignited, white-hot. He confronted her at dawn, the bungalow trembling with his fury. You forged this? Using her illness like a noose. Lydia's eyes were steel. For her soul, boy. And yours, Eleanor, awakened by the shouts, wheeled in her chair, face ashen. Lydia. Is it true? The admission spilled, tear-choked. I did it for love, Ellie. To save him from fire. Eleanor's hand flew to her chest. Gasp ragged. Get out. Both of you, out of my house. Alarms blared in Vincent's mind as she clutched her side, pain etching deep. Ambulance lights flashed red-blue through the curtains, sirens wailing judgment. In the ER, doctors swarmed, heart-strained from the cancer siege. Vincent paced linoleum etched with prayers, Bobby's arms his only harbor. She'll pull through, Bobby murmured, but doubt shadowed his words. Hours later, Eleanor stabilized, eyes fluttering open to Vincent's vigil. Forgive me, sugar. For the door I almost locked forever. He kissed her forehead, salt mingling, It's open now. That's all that matters. August hung heavy in Atlanta, a sauna of secrets and second chances. Eleanor's hospital stay stretched into weeks, a limbo of 4 drips and whispered apologies. Lydia vanished like smoke, her exile self-imposed after the forgery's fallout. Rumors swirled of her crashing with cousins in Macon, Bible clutched like a shield. Vincent and Bobby rotated shifts at the bedside, their presence a quiet revolution. Eleanor softened further, requesting Bobby read her psalms in his gravelly baritone, or fetch her the forbidden Giovanni's room from Vincent's bag. Clara would have liked you, she confided one twilight, monitors beeping a lullaby. Strong, like she was. Vincent's world tilted toward tenderness, but cracks spiderwebbed beneath. Work dried up, clients ghosting emails, his sketches turning obsessive, doors morphing into labyrinths on canvas. Bobby, too, frayed at the edges. Warehouse overtime piled bruises on his arms, exhaustion carving hollows under his eyes. Their lovemaking shifted from fire to flicker, bodies seeking solace more than spark. We're in this, Vincent would affirm, tracing Bobby's tattoos like maps to safety. But doubt whispered, how long can love outrun loss? Discharge brought Eleanor home to a bungalow Vincent had fortified. Ramps installed by Bobby's crew buddies, fridge stocked with meal prep miracles. Fall crept in on golden tiptoes, leaves crunching underfoot like brittle promises. They established a rhythm. Mornings of oatmeal and old radio crooners, afternoons of porch swings where Eleanor grilled Bobby on his dreams. You ever think of settling? Boy? Kids? Maybe, Bobby chuckled, foot nudging Vincent's. Adoptions on the table, Mrs. But first, we've got to conquer this city. Her eyes twinkled. Rare mischief. Call me Ellie. And conquer? Honey, you've already stormed my castle. Yet the cancer gnawed relentless. A thief in the night. By October, Eleanor's breaths came shallow, her frame a whisper against the quilts. Hospice nurses glided in like ghosts, murmuring of comfort measures. Vincent sold a series of his door paintings to a Buckhead gallery, raw, emotional slashes of color that fetched enough for round-the-clock care. The opening night was a blur of champagne flutes and backslaps, but Vincent slipped away early, drawn to the bungalow's glow. Bobby met him there, arms open in the kitchen's warm lamplight. Proud of you, artist man. Their kiss deepened, hands roaming familiar paths, but a cough from the bedroom halted them. Eleanor, propped on pillows, beckoned with a skeletal finger. Don't stop on my account. Life's too short for half measures. They laughed, tension uncoiling, and settled on the bed's edge, a makeshift family portrait. That night, as rain pattered tin roofs, Eleanor shared her final unburdening. A locked box from the attic, key trembling in her palm. Inside, letters from Clara, bundled with a faded lesbian pulp novel, The Well of Loneliness. I kept them hidden, ashamed. But you too. You're brave where I faltered. Vincent's throat tightened. You were brave, Grandma. Surviving that alone. She waved it off, eyes on Bobby. Promise me, son. You'll fight for him. The world's got doors that'll slam, but love, it kicks them down. Bobby nodded, voice thick. On my life, Ellie. November chilled the air. Thanksgiving a quiet affair. No turkey, just soup simmered slow. Stories swapped over flickering candles. Vincent's found family crashed the scene. Jax with his rainbow beard and Theo's guitar, strumming folk tunes that tugged heartstrings. Eleanor held court from her recliner, frail but fierce, toasting with ginger ale. To doors flung wide, but betrayal's echo resurfaced in a letter, slipped under the door like a serpent's tongue. Lydia's script, venomous. Ellie's confiding in me again. She sees the error now, your influence weakening her faith. Come to Macon. Hear her real wishes. Vincent crumpled it, flames devouring the paper in the sink. But the poison seeped. Was it forgery redux, or truth unearthed? He drove to Macon alone. Autumn fields blurring gold and rust. Heart a war drum. Lydia's trailer squatted on a weedy lot, curtains twitching like nervous eyes. She answered smirking, cigarette glowing accusatory. Knew you'd come crawling. Where's the proof? Vincent demanded, voice steel. She led him to a back room, air stale with mothballs. There, on a formica table, Eleanor's journal, recent entries. Shaky hand, Lydia's right. The devil's in the details. Vinny's path leads to damnation. Must protect the legacy. Dates aligned with her weakest days. Lydia's visits unchecked. Vincent's world tilted. You manipulated her. When she was doped on painkillers. Guidance. Boy. Love's a battlefield. Her laugh was acid. He snatched the journal, storming out to the truck, pages fluttering like trapped birds. Back in Atlanta, confrontation brewed. But first, a call to the hospice nurse, check her meds log. Lydia's visits. Confirmation came swift, extra sedatives, off schedule, correlating with the entries. Betrayal layered upon betrayal. Lydia's piety a mask for control. Her fear of losing Eleanor's fortune to sodomites the true motive. Vincent's lawyer friend drafted a restraining order, swift and surgical. The showdown unfolded on a crisp All Hallows Eve. Porch pumpkins leering witnesses. Lydia arrived uninvited, Bible in hand, flanked by church ladies in pastel cardigans. Ellie needs exorcism from your curse. Bobby blocked the door, arms crossed like oaks. Not today, sister. Court saying otherwise. Vincent emerged, journal thrust forward. Your guidance, it's fraud. Forged words, dope doses. Get off this property, or it's jail next. Lydia's facade cracked, eyes wild. For her soul, you think your perversion honors her. Eleanor, wheeled out by a nurse. Voice a whip crack. Enough, Lydia. My soul's my own. And it's at peace with them. The church ladies gasped, retreating in a flutter of whispers. Lydia crumpled, sobs heaving. Ellie, I only wanted to save you. By damning my boy, go. Heal your own wounds. The door closed soft this time. Not a slam but a sigh. In the aftermath, Eleanor rallied for a final act of grace. Take me to the lake, she whispered one dawn, eyes bright despite the pallor. Lake Lanier, where she'd picnicked with Clara under willow veils, waters lapping secrets. Vincent and Bobby loaded her into the truck, blankets cocooning her frailty, thermos of tea steaming comfort. The drive wound through foothills, radio murmuring blues. At the shore, they spread a picnic, crackers, cheese, tamales wrapped in foil. Eleanor leaned on Vincent's arm, gazing at ripples silvered by sun. Bury that box here. Sugar. Let Clara go free. Vincent dug shallow with a trowel, earth soft as forgiveness, letters and book consigned to the ground. Bobby sang a low ranchera, voice weaving with wind. As dusk bruised the sky purple, Eleanor turned to them, hands spanning both. Marry him, Vinny. Under these trees, with the water as witness, they did, impromptu and imperfect, vows exchanged over a driftwood altar, rings glinting humble. I promise to kick down every door for you, Vincent said, tears salting the words. And I'll hold the battering ram, Bobby replied, kiss sealing it. Eleanor's smile was benediction. My boys. My legacy. That night, back home, she slipped away quiet in sleep, monitors flatlining to silence. Vincent woke to the hush, Bobby's arms pulling him close as grief crested tsunami. The funeral was a tapestry of mourners, queer kin in leather and lace, southern relatives stiff in black. Eleanor's will read clear, everything to Vincent, with a codicil for Bobby. My grandson in spirit, keeper of the door. Lydia attended, distant. Her apology a note slipped into Vincent's pocket. Forgive my blindness. Love her memory through him. He burned it unread, ashes scattering on the wind. Winter blanketed Atlanta in rare frost. The bungalow now there's Vincent's canvases on walls, Bobby's tools in the shed. They hosted a memorial potluck, laughter mingling with tears, stories of Eleanor's quirks a bridge across the void. In bed that night, Vincent traced Bobby's chest, heartbeat steady. She opened the door. We walked through. Bobby kissed his temple. And we'll never look back. The new year dawned brittle in Atlanta. Skies a watercolor wash of gray promising renewal that felt like a lie. Vincent and Bobby moved into the bungalow slow, like mourners handling china. Eleanor's quilt on the bed, her porcelain cat on the mantel. Ghosts welcomed, not banished. Vincent's art surged. Commissions flooding from the gallery show. Doors now portals of light in his oils. Bobby quit the warehouse grind, partnering in a queer-owned construction firm flipping fixer-uppers into safe havens. Their life wove domestic, mornings of coffee brewed strong, evenings salsa-stepping in the kitchen to vinyl spins. But grief ambushed in waves. Vincent finding Eleanor's lipstick in a drawer, crimson ghost. Bobby pausing at the fridge for her ginger ale, habit unbroken. Therapy helped. A midtown counselor with rainbow pins on her lanyard unpacking the betrayal scar. Lydia wasn't the villain, she said gently. She was fear incarnate. Yours now is letting go. Vincent nodded, but the scar itched. Pride season approached, floats glittering like defiant jewels, and he volunteered for the parade committee, designing banners that screamed love unlocked. Bobby joined, hauling speakers and high-fiving marchers, their tank tops sweat-slick under June sun. The night before the march, they hosted a rehearsal barbecue in the backyard, Jack's grilling veggie skewers, Theo belting show tunes. Eleanor would have hated the glitter, loved the joy. Vincent felt her in the laughter, approving specter. The parade was catharsis. Rainbow River coursing Peachtree Street, cheers thundering like applause from heaven. Vincent and Bobby locked arms atop a float shaped like an open door, confetti raining biblical. But midway, a heckler from the sidelines, beer-bellied, signs scrawled God hates fags, hurled a bottle, shattering at Bobby's feet. Shards flew, nicking his calf, blood welling bright. Chaos erupted, medics swarming, but Bobby waved them off. Grin feral. Bastards aim sucks. Let's keep marching. Vincent bandaged him later in their truck. Hands shaking. You could have been hurt bad. Bobby cupped his chin. Worth it. For this. He gestured to the fading floats. The crowd's echo. Their kiss tasted of salt and victory. But Vincent's mind replayed the bottle's arc. Lydia's words in projectile form. Fall brought harvest festivals and hauntings. Vincent's first solo exhibit opened in September. Thresholds, walls alive with Eleanor's influence, doors ajar to sunlit futures. Critics raved. Sales soared. But the pinnacle was Eleanor's letter. Framed. To my Vinny, walk bold. Love fierce. The key's yours. Bobby hung it behind the bar at their after-party. Toasting to Ellie, doorkeeper supreme. Yet conflict simmered domestic. Bobby's firm landed a big flip. A Victorian in Inman Park. Echoes of Eleanor's bungalow. Overruns piled. Tempers flared. Vincent snapped at late dinner's cold. Bobby retreated to the garage with tools clanging frustration. One November night, after a shouting match over forgotten anniversary plans, 2 years since the proposal, Vincent stormed to the porch swing. Stars indifferent witnesses. Bobby followed. Jacket zipped against chill. I'm sorry, amor. Work's eating me. But you're my anchor. Vincent's voice cracked. Feels like we're drifting. Like without her. The glue's gone. Bobby knelt. Ring glinting. Then let's make it official. Courthouse next week. No fanfare. Just us. Tears blurred the yes. And they married quiet. Clerk's office in morning light. Vows recycled from the lake. Rings exchanged with witnesses Jax and Theo via Zoom. Reception was backyard bonfire. S'mores sticky. Stories roasting warmer. Lydia sent a card. Postmarked Macon heard the news. Proud of her choice. Wish you joy. Vincent pinned it to the fridge. Olive branch accepted. Winter deepened. Snow dusting magnolias like powdered sugar. Bobby's project wrapped. Profits seeding a nursery. Adoption papers filed tentative. Dreams of a kid with their eyes. But climax crested unbidden. A call from the lawyer. Eleanor's estate tangled in probate. Lydia contested the will, claiming undue influence. The boy's perversion coerced her. Court date loomed February. Atlanta's justice system a coliseum. Prep was war. Affidavits from nurses. Video of Eleanor's lucid endorsements. Vincent's journals testifying love's purity. Bobby stood sentinel. But doubt gnawed. What if we lose? The house? Her memory. Vincent's resolve hardened. Then we build new. But we fight like she taught us. Trial day dawned foggy. Courthouse echoing footsteps like judgments. Lydia took the stand. Voice quavering theatrical. Ellie was bewitched. Your Honor. That Ramirez, tattooed thug, preyed on her weakness. Gasps rippled. Vincent's fists clenched under the table. But cross-examination dismantled her. The forged codicil exposed. Medlogs damning. Eleanor's video deposition. Filmed weeks before death. Playing stark. My will's my heart. Judge. Vincent and Bobby, they're my salvation, not sin. Lydia crumbled. Tears real this time. Confession spilling. I was jealous of their bond. Mine with Ellie faded, and I lashed. Dismissal came swift. Gavel crack vindication. Outside, reporters swarmed, but Vincent pulled Bobby close, kissed defiant. We won. Lydia approached hesitant. Coat clutched. I I'm sorry. Truly. Can we talk sometime? Vincent nodded. Bridge half built. For Grandma. But earn it. Spring 2026 bloomed triumphant. Dogwoods defiant. Vincent's book deal landed. Doors unlocked. A memoir of love and legacy. Ghosts laid bare. Bobby's firm expanded. Queer apprentices mentored. Their first foster placement arrived. A scared teen named Riley, 14 and freshly out, eyes wide at the bungalow's welcome. This place feels safe, he said, hugging a pillow. Nights, they three piled on the couch, movies flickering, Eleanor's quilt tenting them. Vincent watched Bobby braid Riley's hair, clumsy but loving, and knew this was the humanistic harvest. Betrayal's thorns yielded roses. Yet romance reignited slow burn. One anniversary eve, Bobby blindfolded Vincent, leading him to the backyard, string lights twinkling, picnic under stars, tamales steaming homage. Dance with me, Bobby whispered, salsa steps soft on grass. Vincent melted into him, bodies syncopated. Every door leads here, as fireflies pulsed Morse code. Bobby knelt again, not proposal, but promise. Adopt him? For real. Laughter bubbled. Yes, a vow renewed. In that garden, Eleanor's spirit swirled, door eternally ajar. Summer scorched Atlanta once more, humidity a lover's clingy embrace, but the bungalow breathed easier now. Windows flung wide to cicada symphonies. Riley settled like rain on parched earth. School backpack slung by the door, posters of indie bands papering his room, tentative smiles cracking his shell. Vincent mentored his sketches, charcoals blooming bold. Bobby coached soccer drills in the yard, laughs booming barriers down. Family therapy wove them tighter, sessions unpacking Riley's ejection from his Bible Belt home. Fairy boy, his uncle sneered, mirroring Vincent's scars, healing communal. The adoption hearing was anticlimax sweet. Judge's gavel a family seal. Congratulations, dads. She beamed, Riley's hand squeezing Vincent's, tears unashamed. Back home, Jax and Theo threw a bash, balloons in rainbow riot. Cake iced, Ramirez Hayes trio. Lydia attended. Edges softened. Her gift a scrapbook of Eleanor's youth. Clara's photos tucked secret. A nod to shared silences. I see it now, she murmured to Vincent over punch. The love. It's holy. He hugged her awkward. Forgiveness a muscle flexed new. Welcome to the mess. Aunt. Vincent's memoir launched fall. Signings snaking lines at outright. Readers clutching copies like talismans. Your grandma's story saved me, a teen whispered. Eyes Eleanor's echo. Bobby beamed from the wings. Riley hawking books with entrepreneurial flair. Royalties banked a college fund. But wealth's true coin was letters. Hundreds. Tales of doors slammed and kicked. Love's persistence praised. Conflict resurfaced subtle. Autumn's chill nipping heels. Bobby's firm bid on a controversial Reno, a queer youth shelter in East Atlanta, backed by city grants but picketed by conservative councils. Threats scrawled on walls. Sodom's den closes tonight. Bobby shrugged them off, but Vincent saw the toll nights pacing. Phone glued to alerts. It's her legacy, Bobby said of Eleanor. Safe spaces. Vincent designed the logo. A door cracked to dawn, but fear fermented. One graffiti raid escalated. Masked figures torched a supply shed. Flames licking sky orange. Bobby arrived first. Hose feudal against inferno, soot blackening his face. No injuries, but the message scarred, we know where you live. Vincent's rage-boiled activist. He rallied the community, petitions circling. Op-eds in the AJC thundering hate has no home here. Riley, overhearing whispers, drew protest signs fierce as his 14 years. Climax peaked at the council meeting. Chamber packed tense. Air electric. Bobby testified raw. This shelter's not a threat, it's a threshold. For kids like my son. Doors shut by folks like you. Councilman Hargrove. Red-faced relic. Sneered. Perverted propaganda. My constituents won't fund sin. Vincent stood then. Voice amplified by grief's forge. My grandmother died loving despite her fears. She opened her door to us. Gay. Orphaned. Unbroken. Yours? It's boarded shut. Cheers erupted. Cameras flashing. Hargrove's motion tabled. Victory tasted Pyrrhic. That night, Hargrove's goons slashed tires at the site. Bobby's truck among them. Police lights painted the street blue, but arrests stuck anonymous alibis. In bed, Vincent traced Bobby's bruises from hauling debris. We can't keep fighting alone. Bobby's eyes, whiskey warm, met his. Then let's amplify. Your book, my build, make it a movement. They did. Threshold Project, birthed network of retrofitted homes. Artist residencies for queer youth. Funded by memoir sales and grants. Riley's art graced the first walls. Murals of doors blooming diverse. Media swarmed. CNN segments humanizing. From Family Feud to Foundation. Romance. Long sidelined. Roared back. Anniversary moonlit. They escaped to Savannah. Hotel balcony overlooking Forsyth Park. Oaks draped festive. Bobby slow-danced Vincent under stars. Whispers husky. Remember the lake? That was us starting. Vincent's hands roamed. Igniting. This is us forever. They tumbled to sheets. Bodies rediscovering, slow. Then urgent. Love's language fluent. Dawn found them tangled. Coffee steaming. Plans hatching. Expand the project north. Maybe Brooklyn. Bobby's roots calling. Winter whispered warnings. A flu season savage. Riley down hard. Fever dreams of slamming doors. Vincent nursed him vigilant. Bobby brewing pozole curative. Recovery bonded deeper. Riley's first, I love you. Dad's a milestone etched gold. Spring 2027 greened relentless. Threshold's first shelter ribbon cut amid cheers. Eleanor honored in plaque. In memory of doors opened wide. Lydia volunteered there. Sorting donations. Her redemption quiet labor. One evening, she and Vincent shared porch tea. Swing creaking companionable. I was wrong, Vinny. About everything. He nodded, peace settling. We all were. Once. That's human. Climax's echo faded to harmony. But drama's undercurrent stirred anew. Vincent's publisher pitched a sequel. Bobby's firm eyed national scale. Overload loomed. Arguments flaring. Vincent accusing burnout. Bobby defending ambition. We're building empires. Amor. For Riley. For them. Vincent paced the kitchen. Heart raw. Empires on what? If we lose us. The fight crested stormy. Words weapons. You're just like her. Doors half open. Vincent hurled. Regretting instant. Bobby recoiled. Eyes storm dark. And you're scared of full. Always hedging. Silence stretched oceanic. Vincent fled to the attic. Eleanor's box long buried but echoes loud. There, a letter unfinished. To Vinny, love ain't tidy. It's messy, like pie crust crumbling, but worth the bake. Tears fell, clarity crystallizing. He found Bobby on the porch, head in hands. I'm sorry. You're right, I'm hedging. But it's fear, not doubt, kneeling, ring twisting. Let's elope again. Renew. Full throttle. Bobby's laugh broke. Embrace crushing. Vegas? Neon doors. Perfect. Vegas blazed absurd. Chapel kitsch. Elvis officiating. Riley flower boy grinning. Vows vowed anew. Through betrayals and builds. I choose you. Honeymoon blurred slot lights and stolen kisses. Returning recharged. Years folded forward. Threshold a beacon, shelters in 5 states. Riley thriving in art school. Dating a drummer with kind eyes. Vincent's trilogy capped legacies. Bobby's TED Talk viral. Kicking doors. Love's blueprint. Lydia found love late. A widow from the shelter. Hands clasped church free. On their 10th. Backyard under dogwoods. Vincent and Bobby swayed to old salsa. Riley sketching from the swing. Grandma'd be proud, Vincent murmured. Bobby's hand spanned his back. She is. Doors wide forever. In that sway, conflict resolved. Romance eternal. Humanism's quiet win. Love, not flawless, but fiercely, unyieldingly true. No tragedy, only triumph wrought from slammed thresholds, opened, at last, to light.